So much is talked about when it comes to money principles from financial advisors and non financial advisors. So sometimes we actually even have to pay for that information. But is all positive financial advice good advice? I really don't think so. And I'm not even a financial advisor. Now, one of the seemingly best, most common, yet worst financial advice that's out there is saving. Yeah, I know. Let me explain. This is Teach for Block Smarts. Let's get money and let's get smart. So, I've been upping my financial literacy, financial education, and everything. You know, a lot of people have because we're seeing that there's something wrong in our economy, and this, we want to fix things. And one of the things that I came across, kind of like maybe not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago, is that saving is one of the ways that disciplined people actually do themselves a disservice. Saving actually puts you into poverty. It slides you into poverty. No lie. Actually do this. Go to your bank if you're saving, because you probably never have checked this, and ask them, how much interest do I get on my savings in my account? And I can guarantee you that it is under 1%. Most banks, if not all, offer you under 1% for your savings. That is terrible. I know some of you are probably thinking like, well, it's safe in a bank, it's my money, or you probably haven't even thought about it because you just know that your money is in a bank and it's supposed to be safe, and you're fine with that. But is it really safe? Maybe secure because you can always access it, which is debatable as well, but you could probably always access it. But is it really safe? No, I don't really think it's safe, because there is a penny pinching monster called inflation. And that is what slides you into poverty. Now, what is inflation? Inflation is the reduction of purchasing power of a currency over time. And there's many reasons why this happens. One of the main reasons that I know from what I've learned so far is that there's the oversupply of money, credit being given to people, and an oversupply of money. It's through quantitative easing. It's just a fancy word. Quantitative easing is just a fancy word that these financial people come up with to make something seem so complicated. It's just printing money. That's what quantitative easing means. It's just printing of money, and this was made possible obviously because before, money was on the Bretton Woods system, which meant that currencies were backed by gold. So if you had a pound, then that pound was backed by a pound of gold. It was just that, aligned. I'm actually going to do a video which is solely dedicated to money, the history of money and everything. So I'm just going to probably just whiz through this. But money used to be backed by gold. And then in 1971, Nixon came in, took it off the gold standard. So that meant that money didn't have to be backed by gold. And that was the introduction of what we call the fiat system, which is what we are in now. And fiat system is the money we use now, which means that it's not backed by anything other than the government saying that, yes, this £5 note is worth £5. This pound coin is worth £1. But it's not really backed by anything. You understand? So that made it easy to just kind of get out of control with the financial system. So now they would think that, okay, we have a war. That war is going to cost us $1 trillion. What should we do? Get the printer running. They print $1 trillion, and that trillion is made available for that war. Oh, there's a deficit here. How much is the deficit? It's this much. They make it seem like there's a whole big process that goes through it, but that's basically what they're doing. They just print money to just cover holes in the economy and sort out economic problems without necessarily sorting the economic problem. If you know what I mean, it's just throwing money at problems, but not actually solving the problems. So what happens now is that oversupply and trying to stimulate the economy, and a failing economy, they make credit available to people because they want people to start buying goods so that they can stimulate businesses. So that creates high demand for things sometimes that manufacturers can't keep up with, because just because there's an oversupply of money, it doesn't mean that manufacturing is also operating at that same level to meet that demand. So when demand can't be met, what happens? Prices go up, right? Now, when prices of services and goods go up, it doesn't necessarily mean that your wages are going up, because when you look at like the poor and the middle class, usually they are run by the government. Well, what they earn is governed by the government. Like minimum wage has to be this much, and most businesses will obviously offer the least that they can offer to their employees. That is never hardly reviewed until maybe 5 years, but goods and services are going up annually. So that's why you'll see that someone in middle class who's living a certain lifestyle today, 3 years down the line, will start having to cut back on their lifestyle, even if they are saving, because goods and services are going up, but their salary isn't. And then when their salary does go up, then it's probably just by a percentage that's under inflation. So they are not, it's not going up in line with inflation or above inflation. So they are always trying to play catch up. But you can't catch up, because if your salary or your wages aren't going up to outperform inflation, even if your money is saved, you are going to have to reduce and cut back on your lifestyle. You're going to have to cut back on things that you could afford initially, because the prices are going up and you can't access certain things. So this is what inflation is. So over time, you start to realize that you probably won't realize it, because you're just looking at the only options that you do and the only financial information that you have is that you should be saving. But what 10,000 could afford 10 years ago isn't the same thing. That you can't afford that same thing 10 years later with that same amount, right? So that's basically what happens. So now, if you think about it, you've got money in your savings account. It's under 1%. Inflation is currently at about 2 to 3% at the moment. So your money is losing power by the difference between what your savings are earning and what inflation is. That's the rate at which your money is losing its purchasing power. And I'll show you an example. Look at this chart and you see what I mean by how you can lose your purchasing power and how it's been happening over time. So if we look at this calculator, right, this is a UK inflation rates and calculator. It's a calculator for inflation rates, basically. So £100 in 1900 is equivalent to 13,000. Well, in 2020, that was in 2020 where, this calculator stops at. So think about that, right? What you could afford with £100 in 1900, you now need 13,000. If you look at this, like the years and then inflation, you see that a lot of these years, like inflation is around, 5 to, even 9. It varies. But all I'm trying to say to you is that in a bank account, in a savings account, if it's under 1%, if the interest that you're getting on your savings is under 1%, your money is losing purchasing power by these percentages all the time. So you're always under the inflation rate, which means that your money is not doing anything. It's losing value, right? This is how money loses value, right? So you have to think of it like, well, now that you know this, that how can I maintain my value and increase the value of my purchasing power? Well, it's simple. You take it out of your savings account and you put it in, you invest it into a stock or an asset that appreciates higher at a percentage rate that is higher than inflation. 10% is safe. But you can choose the assets that you want or the stocks that you want that perform even higher than 10%. There's many that you can choose from. But anything at least from 10% is better than leaving it in a savings account. It's a lie that, saving is good. And it's already great that you have the discipline to save, but you are shortchanging yourself by putting it in the wrong place. You're not rewarding your discipline the right way. And this is how social classes are eroded. because you've probably seen people who work certain jobs and then they can afford a certain lifestyle, right? But over time, even with the same pay, they start cutting back on things like they can't afford things that they could afford 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because that money they're being paid has not been increased. Their wages haven't been increased in line with inflation or above inflation. So each year, their salary is starting to kind of like get them less and less on the market. That's how social classes are eroded, and you start to see that middle class people start to slide into the poor class, the low class, or poverty class. That this is what happens because wages, a lot of people's wages are only increased maybe after 4 years, 5 years. NHS staff. I know NHS staff had like a 2% wage increase after what, I can't remember how many years. But is that really going to solve much problems? Because goods and services are going up annually, and inflation is up, annually as well. So, you know, those are the things that would hurt you. But if you are investing your money, even if you are not working, if your wages aren't being increased to kind of outdo inflation, if you invest your money, you'll probably find yourself even actually bettering your lifestyle, because what you can get from your interest, you can still maintain your lifestyle, even live better when you invest in assets that perform better than inflation and everything. Okay, so you know these are the things that rich people know. These are the things that rich people know, because look, this is crazy when you look at these things, and they don't tell you that, and you just think that it is, just good enough to be able to save. It's great that you have that discipline, but you have to know where to do it. So, you see what I mean? Now, having looked at this chart, what's the solution? You have to invest your money rather than save it. But you don't just invest it. You have to invest it in an asset that appreciates better than inflation. It has to outperform inflation so that you can maintain, at least at the minimum, maintain your lifestyle. But picking the right asset means that you can actually accelerate your lifestyle. You can actually live a better life having picked the right asset. This is what the rich do. Because when you look at most rich people, regardless of what business they do, they are invested in property. They are invested in the stock market. And now we've got cryptocurrencies. Because they know damn well, if you probably look at most rich people's bank accounts and savings accounts, they really don't have much money. A lot of their money is in stocks, real estate, and cryptocurrencies. Because they know that I am sliding myself in poverty if I'm going to keep my money there. You don't keep your money in your savings account, right? So I know a lot of you will probably start thinking, well, I can't get into real estate, so does that mean that I'm doomed for poverty? No, it doesn't mean that. Stocks and currencies are good options if you don't have the money or the acumen to go into real estate. You can still go into stocks and cryptocurrency, because some people either don't want to do it or don't feel that they can do it, for many reasons. But if you think about it, there's now a low barrier to get into stocks. You can start investing in stocks through Robinhood, eToro, Webull, and a lot of these other companies, and then you can start to invest in stocks in cryptocurrencies on Binance, Crypto.com, and the entry barrier is so low. So you can do that, because I know someone was telling me that, no, I don't really want real estate, because real estate can actually be a headache. Because let me tell you why you don't always have to feel like you have to go into real estate. So you to get a property, you'll need a deposit. I know there's probably different methods of getting these properties, but some people just don't want to go through the headache. But you need a deposit, right? And then you have to charge rent, which is probably going to have to be higher than your mortgage, because you want the profit, right? But your rent is probably going to be capped by the area that you bought your property in, and then you've got repairs. You're probably chasing after tenants that aren't paying, and then maybe you might not even be able to get a tenant into your house. So those are things that other people that don't want to get into real estate always worry, like, oh man, and it can be a headache. So you can just invest in stocks, because you can actually probably do better sometimes in stocks and cryptocurrencies than someone that has real estate, depending on how much real estate that person has. Because I feel like a certain number of doors, the number of doors matters for you to start actually seeing yourself making money. Because I feel like you have to have quite a few properties or certain properties to actually feel that you are making money from real estate. But with stocks and cryptocurrencies, like, okay, here's how I like to look at it, right? So the coin that you pick, which is the cryptocurrency, or the stock that you pick, could be your real estate. Okay, right? The deposit would be your initial investment, right? Time is your tenant, and the interest is your rent, and you're sorted. And you just keep dollar cost averaging in it, dollar cost averaging, and you keep on increasing your returns. That's the good thing about stocks and cryptos, because you don't really need to be hands on and physically there, and you're always liquid when you're in stocks and crypto, because you can just sell your stocks and then just get access to money. You can just live off the interest, and you just keep dollar cost averaging. And when you're dollar cost averaging into stocks, you're also and cryptocurrencies, you're also getting things like compound interest. So you don't really have to go into real estate. You can actually make more money with less stress when you're in crypto and stocks. That's how I like to look at that comparison. So don't always feel like, oh no, then you've lost if you can't get into real estate because every rich person is in it. No, you don't have to. You can buy stocks that can give you dividends and make money. You're dollar cost averaging, and then you're earning off that compound interest. Right? Compound interest. Albert Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world, right? That's what compound interest is. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein said this, and I'll show you why. I'm going to show you this through this calculator, so that you see what you probably is. I think it's better explained through the calculator. Check this out. Right, let's get visual. This is the compound interest calculator. It's in US dollars, so I'm just going to shift it to pounds, being in the UK. And I'm going to try and just use small amounts, because I really want to remove the stigma in a lot of people that always feel that investment is a rich man or a rich woman's game. It isn't. You just have to find the right strategy for your pocket. Okay? There is space for everybody, and the barriers are now low, because there's places that you can now go and invest without needing like these regulations of having to have a certain amount of money or anything. You can go on eToro, you can go on Robinhood, you can go on Webull, and crypto has a low barrier of entry as well. You can go on all these other crypto sites and buy coins and buy stocks. So the barriers are low, but I'm going to use a very low amount, so that even someone who's working on a minimum wage understands that you don't have to have too much money to start being an investor. So let's start with an initial balance of £100. And let's be conservative and choose a 10% rate of return on our investment. Now, 10% is kind of considered the average rate of return in the stock market, and they use the S&P 500 to judge that. The S&P 500 is the Standard & Poor index, which is 500 of America's best performing public companies, basically. So they use that to decide that, yeah, the average rate of return on the stock market is about 10%. So we're going to go with 10%. It's also a nice little percentage because it's above inflation. So your money will be outperforming inflation, which is the reason why we're looking to invest. We're going to choose 20 years as our period. The reason I choose 20 years with compound interest is because 20 years is where you will see the dramatic effects of compound interest. Okay, the less years, the less dramatic. Still outperforming inflation, but it's less dramatic. And I'll show you why as we go further. So we're going to be depositing 100 a month. Now, you're on a minimum wage. If you really want to invest and you're really disciplined and you really want to change your financial status, you can afford £100. You can afford £100. So let's calculate that. So our total invested is 24,000. So we got 24,000 because we're investing, remember, £100 a month. So £100 a month times 12 is 1,200 a year. And then that 1,200 times 20 years gives us the 24,000. That's what we invested purely. But look at the interest. 52,569. And you're obviously going to add your initial investment, and you're going to have a total of 76,669. That is pretty good, and you're outperforming inflation, which means that you don't even have to shift your lifestyle. You will actually go up in your social status, if anything, because you're outperforming inflation. Your money is working for you. Interest is your money working for you. Let's say we're going to do it over 40 years. Now, for certain age groups, obviously, this isn't going to be ideal, but don't worry, I got you. I'm going to, go into another kind of like simulation. So 40 years, this is kind of also for parents. Encourage your children to invest, because if they're going to start working young, 16, 17, and they're working even at McDonald's, you can encourage them to start investing. If they can save, they would rather be investing. That is something that you need to encourage them. They can do 40 years, because if they even started at 16, I mean, the money, okay, we'll see how much money you'll get if you're going to do this for 40 years, because they could even have more than they need before they're 40. So let's calculate that. So that's for 40 years. So you see, now obviously our investment doubled. So that's 48,000 that they will have invested in 40 years at 10%. And the interest they would have earned is 589,678. That is amazing. And then obviously you're going to add your initial deposit, and that's going to give you 637,000. That's almost $1 million. That is almost $1 million, and that's just by investing 100. And the thing with compounding is that you can do it weekly, and also you can start adding. Even if you want to add, if 1 month maybe you have 300, you're going to put 300 in. Another month you got 150, you're going to put 100, and that is dramatic, because the three things that really kind of create the dramatic effect for your compound interest are the time you invest in. So the longer you invest in, the more dramatic it is, because the interest gets to act on your money for longer. And the frequency, if you're going to be putting it weekly, it's going to be more dramatic, because that 10% is kind of like acting on a higher balance every week. So that's what's causing the escalation, and obviously the rate of return. We're just using 10% just to be conservative, because we don't want to kind of like overestimate. We're just saying, okay, this is the basic that you could get. You could get 20% easily in the stock market. You could get other, there's so many other assets that are performing better than 10%. There's leverage tokens that are performing better than that. So that's that. Now, let's say and let me show you why I was saying time is a bit of an issue. So we're investing the same amount, same interest rate, but we're going to shave it to 10 years. Now, remember, in 20 years, we got about 52,000 in interest. Now I'm going to show you in 10 years, doing everything the same, but just putting it down to 10 years. We obviously put 12,000, and that's because we're putting 100, every month. And then at the end of the day, it's 1,200 times 10, 12,000. And the interest we earned is 8,655, which is plus that's 20,700. It's not bad, because you're still outperforming inflation, but we reduced our investment by half, but the interest didn't come down by half, because in 20 years our interest was 52,000, but in 10 years it's 8,000. It's not like it's half of 52,000, So this is what I'm saying, that with at 20 years compound interest really starts to kind of like start to show off, and that's what it does. Now obviously you can, if you're slightly older, you can, and you probably want to get gains, maybe say in 10 years or even 5 years, you're going to be in an asset that is giving you a higher rate of return than 10%. You don't even just have to be older, but you can just want a higher return. So let's say, because Bitcoin is an example that I'll give, and that was voted the highest performing asset of the past 10 years by 1,000%. Because it gives like an average annual return of about 230%. That's amazing. But we're not even going to go there. Let's just say that you found something that gives you a 50% return on your investment, putting in £100 a month. Same everything, but we're just going to reduce the years to 10 years. Let's see what that could give us. 320,000. Think about that. Just for putting 12,000, you get 320,000 back. That is not bad, and that's in 10 years. That is in 10 years. Let's do it in 20, because maybe you got time. Look at that. From 24,000, you just double the time. From 24,000, you will get interest 44,935,340. 44 million, not thousand, if you find something that's going to give you 50% rate of return. And you can do that. You can do that. So the main thing here is patience. And the rich have been doing this, and this is what I'm finding. And these are the things that we are not taught in school about money. And this is how the rich keep getting richer and we keep getting poorer, because there's things that we were not taught that we have to find out for ourselves. And this is one of them. The idea of compound interest. And knowing that our bank accounts don't give us nothing. We're just if you are disciplined enough to save, then you better get rewarded for your discipline better by investing it. That is the most important thing that we can. That's how we have to start thinking. Investing and not saving. Investing and not saving. Investing and not saving. Right. So that's just that's basically what I wanted to show you guys. And I hope it's inspired some of you guys to start investing. So if you have money in your savings account, I would say you need to start to get into stocks and crypto. Yes, and I'm not giving this as financial advice, by the way, because investing can be risky. And I am giving you the lowest way of risking your investments, because I'm telling you to just kind of like put in a bit at a time. But again, it's not financial advice. But I hope that this does make sense to you, and this does inspire you. See, so there you go. Now you tell me, do you want to have 10,000 in a savings account or 10,000 invested in a stock or cryptocurrency? 10,000 in a savings account is probably going to give you, I don't know, $10 at the end of the year, $10 at the end of the year. Do you really? I mean, saving is a great discipline. Just be appropriately rewarded for your discipline. So do you want £10 as a reward for your discipline at the end of the year? Or do you want to invest in stocks and cryptocurrencies where you can likely make 1,000 a year or even double your money investing it? And even if you don't have a starting capital of 10,000, you can actually start just dollar cost averaging with what you have. £100, like I was showing you in the calculator. The choice is yours. I know what I'm doing. Listen, it's not financial advice, but I thought it was this great information to let you people know, let you guys know, because I know a lot of this stuff is not taught in schools and it's not taught freely everywhere. So it's important information for you to know to try and change your financial situation. I'm doing it. I wanted to be able to share it with people so that we can go on this journey together to be financially independent, financially educated, right? And I hope it helped, and I hope you understood that properly. If not, as usual, just drop some questions in the comments box, and I'll hopefully address any questions that are there. Okay? So everybody, take care. Happy dollar cost averaging, and may the force of compound interest be with you. This is Titch for Block Smarts. Let's keep getting money, and let's keep getting smart. Peace.